Get ready to rock radio, music you want to hear.
And we're here in Liverpool at the O2 Academy, nearing the end of a tour for Dan Reid, with band in tow, and a very warm welcome to you from Get Ready to Rock, Dan Reid.
Thanks.
It's really nice to talk to you, because I was mentioning before the interview, we caught up with you in Chester and you were just playing with your acoustic guitar.
That's crazy, yeah. That's when I first started coming back to music, yeah. I remember that, yeah.
And although for the listener it's quite a novelty you playing just acoustically, I know it's something you've probably done all your life, really.
No, it's not.
No?
In fact, I started, the first solo acoustic shows I started doing was in 2008. When I was playing fundraisers for Barack Obama when he was running for president. So I had never had the courage to actually play for that long of a period of time. I could play one song on stage with the acoustic guitar, and that was about as much nerve as I had to be without a band. But then when I went to India, I think that kind of woke me up to a lot of different things. Just living in a monastery with a mat this thick and no hot water and no electricity, and you do that for 6 months, and it's kind of things change a little bit as far as your perception of what you're capable of and what you're not capable of. You kind of conquer some certain fears, I hope.
So would you say, Dan, really, that that's been a bit of a revelation for you personally, the fact that you have developed the acoustic side of your music, and you still go out playing solo, don't you, without a band? Yeah,
it just reminds me of what I guess music was like before there was a business, before you could record music and sell it. People used to have a piano in their house, or they'd have musicians come over and play string quartets or something like that to have some form of musical entertainment, or somebody in the house would play a banjo, out on the porch. So that reminds me of playing solo acoustic, especially doing the house concerts I'm doing now too. It's taking it back to that time period when music was just entertainment and music and
quite
feeling.
Intimate surroundings, really. Yeah.
So.
Now, I know you get probably asked this a lot of times. I think I asked the same question probably 3 years ago. But do people have an expectation when they see your name on the hoardings and they see your name on an album, they're thinking Dan Reid, late 80s, early 90s, Dan Reid Network. Have you managed to sort of shed that expectation from listeners, or do you still get people really expecting Dan Reid to rock out?
There will always be, I think, people that know the network that wish that we were still together and still playing music, if they were interested in that band in the first place. But I find that no matter what I'm writing, it's still reminiscent of everything I've always written. I just changed the production wrapped around it. So back in the late 80s, or even the mid 80s when we started playing I think our first gig was in December of 84, before we got our record deal. So that was all about mixing like hard rock and funk music together. I was a big fan of Prince and Sly and the Family Stone and Aerosmith and Van Halen, and I was just trying to think of how can I produce music that mixes those two genres together. And then lyrically, I think a lot of stuff like Tiger in a Dress and these more shallow songs that I was writing back then were just attributed to my age and my naivety. But now I think even back then, writing Salt of Joy or Stronger Than Steel or Long Way to Go, there was still this essence of caring about the future and us coming together rather than dividing ourselves up into all these categories. That makes very few people a lot of money, keeping us believing that we're not all the same. So I've always tried to write music that fosters that idea that we're all one on this planet.
Tell us a little bit, just before we leave the subject of Dan Reid Network, because I think I'm right in saying that you did get back together with the guys towards the end of last year.
New Year's Eve,
yeah. That was obviously a one-off in the States. It was in your hometown, wasn't it, in Portland?
Yeah, it sure was. Yeah, we were invited by a promoter there that was he does this yearly event, and he asked us if we wanted to play at the end of 2012. And I firmly believe that the Mayans' prediction about an energy shift happening, I mean, a lot of people turn that into this doomsday thing at the end of the world. It was never supposed to be about that. It was really just about a time loop circling around to where planets align. And the same thing that happens when you're born, depending on where the moon is at, these star signs people talk about, determines a lot about whether you're stubborn or not. It has a lot to do with the gravitational pull of where you were born, what time you were born, and what year. In the end of 2012, a lot of planets aligned in our solar system and in our galaxy that had a big gravitational pull, according to some readings about the Mayans' predictions. And so when I was asked to do this network reunion, I've been asked for a number of years to do it. I never thought it would be possible to do. But it made sense then. It felt like, this is 25 years since we got our record deal. Why don't we bring in the new year of celebrating the fact that the world didn't end? Let's do that together. And it was nice. We had a great time. We're going to do some more shows now because of it.
Excellent. Do you think we'll ever see the Dan Reed Network back in the UK?
Yeah, we're playing in the UK on October 12th for this festival called Enchanted. It's a new festival. It's just starting out. It's in north of London in Essex County, but it's this beautiful manor house in Greenwood Inn, it's called, with a great big marquee, and they asked the Dan Reed Network to headline there, so we're going to do that.
Hey, that sounds really exciting, actually, yeah. I get this idea that you're a little bit of an Anglophile now, because you do tour here quite regularly, don't you? And you're used to the idea of England and, going to different venues and places.
Yeah,
and,
I do. I mean,
which is a big change probably from back in the days, back in the late 80s.
Yeah,
when you were doing like big arenas, weren't you, really?
Yeah, and that, we were doing some clubs and stuff as well, but, we played Download year before last or last year, and I enjoyed that still. I still like playing. We played Sweden Rock 2 years in a row. So I like playing the big festivals, but I really am enjoying playing smaller, intimate gigs, and it's I don't know what it's just, you can connect with everybody in the room, and when you play for 5,000, 6,000 people, something like that, and it's very difficult to connect to everybody. I find it difficult.
Now let's move quickly on to the current album, which is Signal Fire, a fantastic album. It's a nice follow-up, I think, to the previous one, which was like a couple of years back, really. Yeah. But I was listening in the car, actually, coming to the gig tonight, and I was thinking, it's just a shame that radio's changed and people's listening habits, basically. They grab their music in different places now, don't they? Yeah. Internet, YouTube, all this sort of thing. Yeah, but back in, say, the 1980s perhaps, or the 1990s even, I think there would have been a time when those songs would have just gone great on national radio. I mean, what sort of reaction have you been getting to that, Dan, in terms of perhaps a bit more exposure in terms of radio?
You're talking about the latest record?
The latest album.
Yeah, well, we did this Pledge Music campaign, so actually this time around and last time we actually spent some resources, money, time, hiring good people that are in the business that used to work for major labels and now they're more independent. In fact, the Pledge Music company is all primarily run by people that used to work with all the major labels. So they know the ropes, they know how the business works, and when the music business changed, they decided to create something that was more artist friendly. And so we raised quite a bit of money through a supporter-based record label. And so we kind of purposely have been trying to get out there more on the radio and in the press with this campaign.
You just got to go with the current way of doing things, I suppose, because it's amazing for somebody like yourself. I remember you talking about this when we had the chat last time, and about how you come through like the industry in the late 80s when money was no object, was it? They put you on flights here, there and everywhere. You were on good tours and all the rest of it. But yes, so the album, how long in the making was that, really?
Well, in terms
of the songs,
I started composing for about 2 years ago, and I wrote half of the record in this little cabin up on the west coast of Sweden that I rented one fall. About a year and a half ago, I guess, and recorded it over 4 sessions in Portland, Oregon. I did a lot of the basic tracks in my home studio in Prague, and then I would take those tracks over to Portland and we'd get the live drums and record them either there or in Prague and bring all the tracks and mix them in our studio that we did the last album in too, with my guitar player who's my co-producer as well.
Did you find that it all came together quite quickly, really? When you were sort of getting the ideas together for the songs?
Yeah, especially if we were to spend like 3 months in the studio, it'd be all done. But the fact that it took 2 years to make is only because I was touring in between everything all the time. But yeah, I think the songs came together fast. I knew that I wanted this record to be a little more pointed than the last album, a little heavier. I didn't want to try
a
to
bit darker, really, isn't it? I think.
Yeah.
Places, you know.
Yeah.
But there's nothing wrong with that.
It's darker, and at the same time, I'm trying to play with cliches that are usually considered quite light, like a phrase, "All I need is you," or "All night." Sing to me. It's these song titles that could be like the cheesiest pop songs in the world, and maybe they are. I don't know, but if you dig into the lyric, you'll see that that's not what I'm really saying. That's been kind of the goal for me with this record, was to play with cliches.
No, it's great. I think it works very successfully. And you mentioned that you're actually resident now, aren't you, in Czechoslovakia?
Not yet. I'm working on all the paperwork. Yeah.
So you're very much part of the local East European scene, really.
I don't know. I'm getting into it more and more. I definitely feel at home there. I like the fact that they appreciate, especially in the Czech Republic, from what I've noticed, is that because they became a democracy just a little over 20 years ago, they still have a deep appreciation for the right to vote. They take it seriously. In America, we've really taken for granted all of this freedom that we still like to tout and try to spread around the world. We have the highest divorce rate, highest murder, highest child abuse, highest land waste management. We throw away more stuff, we consume more oil than any other country per capita, and yet we're trying to go around the world and preach to everybody else how they should run their countries. And that's difficult for me too, and it was really hard for me to be around that. And half the reason why I moved away was when President Bush was elected the second time. I just didn't believe in any of the wars in Afghanistan. I don't think that any Afghanistan person or any Iraqi person has anything to do with 9/11. Even if it was all bin Laden's brainchild and he was Saudi Arabian. 14 of the 19 hijackers were Saudi Arabian, yet Saudi Arabia is our best buddy because of all the oil. So the hypocrisy and the contradictions are so thick that it's easy to get disillusioned in this world.
And it's a better place creatively for you, presumably, you know, in terms of making music.
Yeah, so far it's been great. There's a great musical community there too, because a lot of people moved there after the revolution because it was really cheap to live there, and it was very beautiful. The architecture is amazing. The beer is cheap. I'm not a beer drinker, but everybody says the beer there is the best. It's just a great country to live in if you're kind of living that bohemian lifestyle. And artists, painters, dancers, filmmakers, musicians, they all kind of, and writers, all kind of appreciate that.
So, finally, what about the future for the next few months, really, for Dan Reed? Whereabouts are you going?
Well, I'll be touring all over. I'm playing some shows in France. I'm going to be going back to Portugal. I've been invited to go do a tour in Southeast Asia, which will be my first time ever over there. And then I'll be doing a lot of festivals in Scandinavia and a lot of private house concerts as well throughout the spring and summer. And I'll go back to the States in May and doing 3 weeks of shows over there too. So
you're keeping really busy, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm booked pretty much every weekend up and through September now. Yes. So yeah, it's hard with my son too, because we're on Skype every day, which is nice.
Well, we'll leave you to. I should say that you're literally about 15-20 minutes away from stage time here. Yeah. The tour continues now. I think you go to Nottingham and then
London on Friday.
The big one in London.
And then I go on my own over to Northern Ireland on Sunday to play over there.
Solo.
Yeah, exactly.
But very brave, because I know you go out with your acoustic guitar, and it's the strength of the songs, isn't it? At the end of the day, and of course you tell stories about them, don't you, as well?
Yeah. I hope people are getting, at least the comments I get back are people are getting some kind of release of tension that's going on in their lives, or if they're dealing with personal issues, death in the family, or celebrating love in their life. They seem to enjoy the music as kind of the background noise to their realities.
All the very best for the future, and we hope to see you again very soon
thank
as
you.
well.
It was an honor to speak with you today.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Dan.
This is radio for the internet age. Get ready to rock radio.